What's up, faithful? Lots to get into. Lots has been going on in Niner land, as we know. And our old pal Brandin Aiyuk just continues to kind of be something that the 49ers need to think about, need to talk about, need to give perspective on, or at least an update on, in terms of what they're going to do going forward. And, there's lots to get into, obviously, in terms of the financials on it. But at some point, the 49ers need to get to a point where whether they can find a trade partner or maybe just go ahead and outright release Brandin Aiyuk. I think that there is going to come a time where the volume is going to take away, I think, in a way from the business at hand. I don't think it is right now. I think that the guys are fully in off-season mode and not even in training camp yet. So I don't think that that's something that really they want to really even kind of call attention to, I think, as a team. And so I feel like this is something for us to talk about, and not something that I want to get into for very much longer, but just to kind of obviously acknowledge that it's definitely a strange and ongoing situation that you don't usually see, right? I think that, and I say that because I was just kind of going back and thinking, the 49ers selected this player from Arizona State in the first round. And if you guys remember that, we can just kind of go back just to that point, because I like to think, and you guys know I'm really into the draft and I'm really into that process and scouting. So I like to look at it from that lens of analyzing the player and the person and who they are and what they can bring to your franchise. And just thinking back, it's so interesting because the 49ers traded up to get Brandin Aiyuk in, I want to say it was pick 29, something like that, 27 or 29. But they had to trade up to do that and into the back of the first round. And the interesting thing is that whether you're at the back of the first round or you're the beginning of the second round, like DeJon Stribling was this year, which was, by the way, a trade back, not a trade up. And yet, all we've heard and all we've seen are so many positives from our new wide receiver, our new young wide receiver, who has the measurables and the talent to be even better, I think, than the peak of what we saw out of BA. And that's a high compliment, I think, because BA was an excellent route runner. And I don't want to compare the two, but just because of the draft and how interesting all that was, that, he was a talent that probably would have gone early second round, maybe mid second round, or somewhere in the second, I want to say, is probably where teams had BA valued that year. But a guy that you could say was overdrafted and his slot was higher. And the 49ers, once again, their consensus board, as we now know, is very, very different than the rest of the league, and or sometimes just slightly different, but still they're going to stick to who they want. And, if you remember too, I think Herman Edwards was still coaching Arizona State at that time. Herm Edwards' great interview, if you've ever listened to him on the radio or on TV. But he does some great hits with local radio and stuff like that. So I've heard him a lot over the years, and just really fun to listen to him. Former player, obviously, for the Jets, and he's got just a ton of knowledge, and he had success at Arizona State, and has had success over the years, right? So I just wanted to kind of call attention to that, because I think the 49ers do so much of the background work on guys to make sure that the people that they're bringing into the building buy into the culture of what it means to be a 49er. And I think that at that time, I think BA fit it perfectly. And for a long time, he worked hard to get out of Kyle's doghouse, right? I love how that's been brought back up. We didn't talk about it for a long time, but now it's been brought back up, Kyle's doghouse. But it's just one of those things where I do think that the young players need to come in with a certain mindset and need to prove themselves. And I think that in the beginning, if you're not doing the things the way that the team wants them to be done, it's going to be a little bit harder to find playing time or for Kyle to really trust you. And I think that works not just at wide receiver, that works big time at quarterback. We've seen what it looks like when Kyle trusts a guy in Purdy versus, how he coaches, guys like Jimmy G or even Trey Lance, right? It's just very different when he's got that trust in what a guy can do and he puts in the time. And so once BA improved and improved a lot, especially as a blocker, I think that Kyle was really comfortable going to him and playing him more. And I think the rest of his game really developed. And again, he got improved quarterback play as time went on as well. So I give him a ton of credit for improving his game, but then he also had the good fortune to be with Brock Purdy for a little while too. And so just the accuracy and mixed in with BA's route running ability was a great match, which is why this is also very disappointing, right? I think people are frustrated. Some people are very angry. For me, I'm disappointed as a fan that enjoys seeing guys that we draft do well. You know, it's obviously nice to see free agents and guys that we traded for. Like, you know, Trent is a Niner for life now to me. Same with CMC. But guys that you drafted, man, and there's something different about that. And I do think the faithful feels that and appreciates that. You know, Fred Warner was a guy we drafted. George Kittle was a guy we drafted. Obviously, Brock was a guy we drafted. These are guys you draft. You know, people didn't want to let go of Debo and the belief that Debo could be better or get back to where he was for a long time. I felt like because Debo was a guy we drafted, you know, and he was a guy who became a fan favorite really fast. You know, obviously Bosa, all these guys. So all that to say, you know, this is so difficult to watch, and a lot of times in life there are examples that I or metaphors I like to use, but it's kind of like a train crash in slow motion, you know. And I do feel like this is one of those things that's kind of like that. And I don't mean to disparage BA in that way. I mean the whole situation, from the way that, you know, from every angle, media, team, player, everything is kind of like this thing where it's like, you know, you just want to know, when is this going to come to a real end? And then honestly, I don't have any ill will for former players, and you know, especially when it's so complicated to know what's going on. And I don't like to get into other folks' heads and try to analyze that. That's not right. Or the mindset of the team, his mindset, his teammates. You know, guys are just going to go out there and do the best that they can. And if they feel that they're supported, usually they're going to do well. And I think somewhere along the way, whether it's through negotiations, just in general over the years, the last few years, especially injuries, all these different things, I think have a lot to do with where we're at right now. So that's all I'll say on that. But I want the best for everybody. You know, I want the 49ers obviously to do well because they're my favorite team, but I want BA to find whatever he needs to find. And obviously it has to be in a different place now. That's just what it is. So I said I wasn't going to go on too long on this. Ended up going, you know, almost 8 minutes on it. But I think at this point, that's kind of all I have to say on it. And hopefully there will be a resolution on it soon. But just shifting gears a little bit to where the 49ers are in general, it is really cool to see the 49ers in a place now where, you know, yes, there was a big move that happened. Obviously, it was a gigantic move that happened. It was a colossal move that happened in the division, obviously, a week and a half now, with Myles Garrett getting traded from the Browns to the 49ers. That would be nice. From the Browns to the Rams. I'm just trying to speak it into existence and maybe change that outcome now. But great player. Obviously, that's something that happened. But I think a lot of people looked at that and said, okay, well, they're the champs. You know, there's not even need to play the games. And that's not the way that I fan, honestly. And yeah, it's a huge move. Yeah, the Rams are great. They have a great roster. We know this. You know, the 49ers reloaded their roster in a lot of key ways. Beyond just, you know, having a draft that's going to be really interesting, because I think they have some real talent, and some of it is raw talent at the back end, but some of it is talent that's ready to go right now and compete. Talent that played well in college, played several years in college, and DeJon Stribling, Romello Height, and obviously you got Kalen Black coming in, and I think he's going to be a real positive for this team this season. I do think that the 49ers wanted to change the way that they attacked and not just kind of go the same way. And I appreciate that John and Kyle see that, you know, not just age and wear and tear, but, you know, where can we take this offense with this quarterback now at 26 years old, who is only going to continue to get better if we continue to add around him. I think that having Mike Evans now in the fold changes everything. It really does, you know, and obviously getting George back at some point, that will make this thing even more dynamic. and being able to see all these pieces fit together. But the 49ers made some amazing additions, I think, that will yield great value for them, and it will just yield a lot of victories, I do think, in the short term and long term. So we'll see on how long a guy like Oso Digizua is going to be here, but man, I really love what we did to get that guy, and I do consider giving up draft capital, a third round pick, is not nothing, and the 49ers have shown that second, third, fourth, fifth round picks are very valuable to them. So I think to be able to do that and add a proven veteran on the defensive line, I really love the Grayson Halton pick. Last year, CJ West was a guy that he was just like my favorite guy to watch on film when I was doing my own amateur scouting. But watching Grayson Halton in the Senior Bowl workouts, I just thought, man, this guy's just an animal, just an absolute beast in these drills. So just imagine how he's going to look in uniform, ready to go in preseason, and hopefully he's going to be one of those guys that you rotate in. I made comparisons to guys like, Abreu Franklin, Sopoanga, these guys in the past that were such great run stoppers. But the thing with Grayson is he's a guy that's got a great pass rush push. He's got a great bull rush. He's dynamic. He's quick off the snap. So I think he's going to be a guy that could be an absolute steal in this draft class, along with some of these others that like I said, I always keep saying strib to the crib. I think Stribling's going to be a lot of fun. And I do think he's coming in more mature into this process as a receiver who's done a lot of the things that the 49ers are going to ask him to do. I mean, the dirty work in the blocking game is what's going to separate him versus some of the other rookies we've brought in that aren't at that elite level in blocking. And the guy's a 4-3 guy. And I think his route running is only going to improve in this offense. I mean, I already, having a quarterback like Brock, I think also changes everything around these guys that are coming in and need to develop. Kalon Black, really impressed with him. Just a little bit I've seen with just catching passes, but he never breaks stride. I think that stuff's going to be incredibly useful. I am interested to see what Jordan James can do. This may turn into a three-headed monster, even though I see a lot of Niner fans skeptical of that because of CMC's usage and how much Kyle doesn't like to take him off the field. But I know that the ultimate prize for Kyle, for John, and for CMC and the whole gang is a Super Bowl. And so they'll do whatever it takes. If that means you get 2-3 extra blows per game or less carries, you get 4 or 5 less carries. Some games you might get 7 or 8 less carries. The 49ers aren't going to need him to tote the rock 20 times a game and then catch 10 more passes every single game. And I think that is something that will be a new dynamic. And so it'll be kind of fun to see how this offense develops. And then on a defensive side, I mean, it looks like Raheem Morris is already having so much fun with this unit, just from hearing from him and the other defensive assistants. They seem like they're beaming with pride and excitement for what this talented group can do. Some of these youngsters coming into year 2, Alfred Collins, like I said, CJ West, Nick Martin. Now, don't say I'm saying it, but I'm going to say it. It'll be interesting if Nick Martin is going to be a guy that they use in different situations and different packages. I don't necessarily think now with Dre Greenlaw coming back in the fold with Fred that you're going to just obviously input him because those guys are going to be starting inside. But maybe Nick Martin is a guy they use as a very, very undersized, but one guy in some blitz packages is what I'm trying to say. A guy that they can use in some of those packages. So it'd be interesting to see kind of that hybrid linebacker, outside linebacker, inside and outside linebacker that they could bring in on blitz packages. And who knows the other different things. Obviously, you're going to have to do the dirty work in special teams and make your bones that way and try to earn playing time that way. But I'm just saying I could see a scenario this season where they're trying to bring guys along and develop them. And Raheem Morris is creative enough to use a guy like Nick and some of these other guys that have speed and that are great tacklers in space in some different ways and get them integrated into the unit on the defensive side. So lots more to talk about. I am excited that the guys do get a little bit of a break here. Attendance was so good during camp that the early part of camp that Kyle decided to just cancel the rest of this mini camp portion now that the guys have, and so or organized OTAs, organized team activities, and so it'll just be fun to see these guys come back. And I don't have that exact date, but I know the guys will be back at some point in July, might be late June, but it'll just be cool to see everybody with the practices. Open practices obviously is something that's always cool if you get a chance to go out and watch guys do that. And then we're on to preseason. It's going to be here before you know it. So excited, guys, really excited more than anything to see the team come together and figure out a way to just go on this all-out war that it's going to be in the NFC West and find a way to, again, like they did last year, they found a way to win 12 games. Obviously, you want to be a lot healthier, but I don't think that this team is in any way, shape, or form looking at last year and saying, or the moves done this year and saying, well, we're going to take some step back to 10 wins or 11 wins. I think they want to go 12 or more wins. And that might be enough this year because of, like I said, it's going to be so many of these big dogs, alpha dogs in the division beating each other up that it might only take 12, right? And then we get into tiebreakers and whatnot, but they can do it. They can absolutely do it. So more to come. Thanks so much, you guys. As always, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. And let's go. Take care, faithful.